XV26 Stealth Battlesuit teams comprise veteran pilots who are granted operational autonomy to serve the greater good. Using unconventional and eccentric tactics, specialists in covert warfare, these are amongst the most daring and innovative warriors in the T'au Empire. In this paint guide, we'll be painting the T'au Sept in that iconic white armour. We'll also be painting the original T'au Sept in that classic scheme, and as an extra treat, finally, the T'au Sept 2 in their blue armour. Let's get started. Here are all the paints I'm going to be using in today's video. With that said, feel free to switch any of them out, any colours you fancy. These are your models after all. And here's also a list of all the brushes and extra equipment that I'm going to be using in today's video. So first up, let's paint that crisp white armour of the Vior'la Sept. Obviously, we're going to start with white scar spray, which sets us up perfectly for painting white. It saves us having to paint it by hand, which can be a little bit tricky and take a while to get right. But with that said, we are going to paint one coat from the pot over the entire miniature. This just means that if we make any mistakes later, we can fix them up easily. Plus, there may be some areas where the spray may have missed, so we can paint those now. One coat should be plenty. Now with that done, it's time to carefully paint all the black areas on the model using Black Legion. So that's mostly just the undersuit, and it can be a little bit tricky to get to, but just take your time and try your best. It's important here that we're as careful as possible. Don't worry too much about the coverage, you can always go back and add an extra layer or two, but right now let's just be as careful as we can and work our way around the whole model. With that done, that's probably one of the trickiest steps done and out of the way, so now let's move on to base coating some of the other areas. First up, Mechanicus standard grey for any areas that we want to be grey. For me, that's just this little chest plate in the middle of the model. With that done, I'm moving on to Mephiston Red to paint all the red details. Depending on what sort of model you have, you may have more or less red areas. 2 thin layers should be plenty here, but if you do think you need more, go ahead and add any extras that you think you need to. Just make sure to keep the paint thin all the time. Now it's time for a really fun part. We're going to recess shade the entire miniature using Dryad Bark. Now Dryad Bark is actually a base paint and not a shade paint, so we're going to mix in some Lahmian Medium so that it takes on the consistency of one. And we're doing this rather than using a regular shade paint because it's a little more pigmented and it will create the impression of dirt or grime getting in and under the armour, which I think looks great. This will take a little bit of time, but just be as careful as you can and tidy up any mistakes once you're done. Now because the main colour is pure white, we have no brighter colours to highlight it with. Instead, we're going to highlight our armour with some battle damage and chipping using Gorthor Brown. Now you can either use a brush for this like me, a piece of sponge from a carry case, or even use a mix of both methods. It's totally up to you. A sponge is much faster, but a brush will let us be a little extra precise. And with that done, let's just quickly highlight the other areas that we base coated earlier. First up, the grey details, and I'm using Dawnstone to highlight all of these. If you have a little extra time and you fancy it, you can also use Dawnstone to highlight all the black details if you want to. And for all the red areas, I'm using Wild Rider Red. And with that done, the armour is complete, and wow, doesn't it look awesome. All that's left is to paint the other remaining details on the mini, base it, and it's complete. Our first scheme, a stealth suit of the Vior'la Sept in that crisp white armour, is ready to sneak its way onto the battlefield. Let's move on now to the next scheme, which is going to be that classic dark red and black scheme from the T'au Sept. For this one, let's start off with an undercoat of Chaos Black spray. Before we move on to adding any of the red details, now is a great time to highlight all the black parts of the armour using Dark Reaper. And because the entire miniature is black right now, this is a great opportunity to dry brush the whole thing and save ourselves doing it later. If you want to be really precise and have super sharp results, instead just edge highlight this on, but that will take a lot more time. But with that done and the black parts of the armour fully highlighted, it's time to move on to adding those red details. So the first colour we're going to be using for these is Corn Red. How many parts of the armour that you paint with this is completely up to you, but I'm following this image I saw in the book, which means I'm only painting these few details in red. It's the helmet, a few details on the shoulder pad, and the weapon as well. Now this may look a little bit bright right now, but don't worry, the end result will be a little darker. And that's because next we're applying an all-over shade using Agrax Earthshade. This will not only darken down the area, but it will also add a hint of brown too, which will give us that exact red tone that we're after. If you do find that your shade is a little too strong here, you can mix in some Lahmian Medium or some water to make the shade a bit more subtle. But that's totally up to you, it's your call. And with that dry, it's highlight time. For the first highlight, I'm going to use Tuscaur Fur on all the edges. This time round, I'm edge highlighting, but by all means you can dry brush this on if you like. But T'au models take really nicely to edge highlights like this on the coloured parts of the armour. that'll really stand out and it's worth the time it takes. This can be a bit tricky, but don't worry, just be as careful as you can and you can always go back and tidy up afterwards. And once you've finished, if you want to take it up a notch, apply a fine highlight to all the sharpest edges and points using Cadian Flesh Tone. And with that done, the armour is complete. Once again, all that's left is to paint the remaining few details on the miniature, base it, and it's ready for battle. The final scheme we're going to be painting today is that Sasea Blue armour. This is an awesome colour and one that goes a bit unnoticed in my opinion. I really like it, so let's jump straight into painting it. To kick us off, Chaos Black spray for the undercoat. Just like the last scheme, this is a great time to apply an all-over dry brush highlight to the black sections of the armour using Dark Reaper. For all those blue details, let's start with a base coat of the Fang. You'll need a couple thin layers of this, and remember you can pick out as many or as few areas of the armour as you want to. This time round I'm not applying an all-over shade, and I'm going to recess shade all the armour using Nuln Oil. Take your time and remember you can tidy up any mistakes if you need to. Our first highlight colour is Russ Grey, and I'm using this to highlight all the edges of the blue armour. You can instead dry brush this if you want to, it's totally up to you. And if you want to take it a little further, you can apply an extra fine highlight to all the sharpest edges using Fenrisian Grey. And with the armour complete, all that's left to do once again is paint the remaining few details and the base, and it's complete. Our third and final awesome stealth suit is complete. This might be my favourite colour scheme out of the bunch, but I've got to say I love each and every single one that we've painted today. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Even though they're going to spend most of their time hidden on the battlefield, you should now have 3 different T'au stealth suit colour schemes nailed and ready to go. In the meantime, if you're looking for more tutorials, tips and tricks, you can check out some of the other videos on the Warhammer YouTube channel, or alternatively you can head to a Warhammer store where our friendly staff are always happy to help. Thanks again for watching, see you next time, bye bye!